Oh, there you are.
Hi, sister.
Hi, sister. Was that you? Oh, that is you calling me.
Yeah, I had put my phone on airplane mode so I was like, oh, if she tried to call me, she was not gonna get through. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello,
Let's
hello.
see. Pre-Shay underscore Vay, Therapeutic Journey Apparel, the real 48505. Come on, Flint.
Is this Deborah Price? Well, hey, Mom.
Hi, Mama. Hi, Kiera. Hey, sis.
Forgive me, y'all. I'm a little sweaty because I just got done working out and
You're glistening with the workout sweat.
I'm whew, praise the Lord. No.
Hey, Tamo.
Oh, Lord have mercy. So I'm gonna give us a little bit of time, see if more people jump on. So Miss Dia, how has your day been going? Is it I have my fan on. Is it giving you feedback or are you okay?
No, I don't hear anything.
Okay. So how has your day been going so far?
Whew. It's
Oh,
been good
okay.
though.
It's been
It's
going.
better than yesterday. So it was good.
Well, better is always good.
Yeah, for sure. Janae, there are some people on here that I'm like, oh, you should get them on here with you. Therapeutic Journey. I think she's a therapist here in Grand Rapids, and she's so dope. And then my sis Kiera, she got so many great things going on right now.
So Dia has officially invited you guys to join the show. So at some point I'll be reaching out to you to connect so we can schedule a day for you guys to go live with me.
And what is it? And so she
And
did
so
it.
she did. Great
Okay,
Gail Cole. Hey, how you doing?
I like that. And so she did it. Period.
So I'm going to like start just kind of introduce myself, and then I'll let Dia kind of introduce herself. So my name is Janae. My handle is Call Me Miss Royalty. I recently published my first book. It's a 40-day devotional it discusses my personal experience dealing with depression and the spiritual journey I went through to get over it. And I also started doing YouTube videos. In my YouTube video, I actually just do highlights of small businesses that I've supported over the past few years. So here we are. I'm doing a series now that just talks about getting personal about a lot of things that we deal with in our community, especially the Black community, and we don't always talk about. And so this is just an opportunity to just give people the space to just kind of share and just kind of discuss, just topics that we really need to just discuss.
Nice.
And so she did is Tunisia. Hey, Tunisia. So Dia, I'm gonna go ahead and let you give your intro.
Hello, everyone. I am, of course, Dia Noble. I am a boundaries coach and a personal trainer. So everything about what I do and believe in is all centered around holistic health. So I just recently started my life coaching company. I don't know, like 8 or so months ago. I've been a trainer for just over. I got my certification. Let me say that. I got my certification just before the pandemic hit, but I've been training for a few years now. Um, so yeah, that is who I am. I'm just about all things health, all things truth, all things identity.
Cool, cool. So Dia, there is some feedback. There's an echo when I speak. Do you have earplugs?
Not for this, not for my
No.
phone.
I guess we'll be hearing echo. So I
Does everyone else hear echo? Because I don't hear echo from her.
Mom says she hears an echo.
I don't know. Can I join live from my computer?
I think. I don't know. Let's not try it. We'll figure it out. Um, So, so the topic this episode is self-care and boundaries. So I know that you are really big on self-care boundaries, making sure people establish them and maintain them. Can you first give us a definition, your definition of what self-care is?
Oof. So, my definition of self care is taking action to preserve or improve your health. So, everything about our actions, our attitudes, anything that contributes to our well being, to me, has to deal with self care.
Okay, anything that contributes to our well-being. So like examples of that would be what?
So, I say contribute to our well being because we tend, to me anyway, we tend to put self care in like this little box of, hey, self care is just this my me time, my not my me time, but my spa day, which it is. That is a component of it. But we don't look at self care as preserving our identity. We don't look at self care as protecting our emotional health. We don't look at self care as our physical health. All of those components are a part of self care, and those contribute to our own personal well being, which is how boundaries come into play too. So, all of those things together contribute to our overall well being, but they take action to make them happen. So, that's what I mean by contribute to our well being. Like, we are beings that take on a lot, and we can't just be on that, okay, I'm exhausted, I need a self care day. You needed a self care day before you got there.
Fair enough. Okay, you mentioned preserving identity. What does that mean to you and why is that important?
Ooh, identity has been such a passion of mine, pretty much my entire life. And the reason being is because as a young child, I've always been very connected to who I was as an individual. It just played out very differently in different stages. So when I was a child, it used to be I just wouldn't go around certain groups or attempt to hang out with certain kids because I thought, and this is just my assumption that I just created in my head, that they wouldn't accept me as I was. I didn't want to change, so I would just rather not be around you. Nothing really to go off of that. I just something that I kind of created in my head as a kid because I knew I was different. And then when I walked into adolescence, I had adults who were always challenging me about who I was. And I'm like, no, you are getting this wrong. I know, like, I'm not doing anything wrong, and I'm not being, anything I'm not supposed to be. And so I dealt with being challenged about who I was almost my entire life. And I hit a stage, and we'll probably go into some other time where I lost the sense of that. But that's why identity always matters to me, is that security in knowing who you are um, connects us to our purpose and our calling, but it also gives us a sense of freedom to just be, which is why that is just, so important to me because what I've had to deal with in my life.
So, okay, so I'll ask you a question. TJ, we are not twins. He asked if we were twins.
No, we're Irish twins. So we were born within 12 months of each other, but we're not twins. No, we did not share a womb.
Right. He said folks need to fall back from attacking our Black queens, especially with microaggressive actions.
True
100.
statement. True statement.
So the question that like stems from your identity piece, I mean, obviously we're sisters, we grew up together. We're sisters, we grew up together, obviously. But how did you feel about the comparison issue? So I can speak from my position, right? We're basically twins, even though we're not twins. But we literally did everything together. We dressed alike most of our lives, whether it was our choice or not. We participated in basically all the same activities. And we were in the same grade for the majority of our, elementary, middle school, high school career. So how did that make you feel? I know for me, there are people who oftentimes would say things, oh, are you only doing this because your sister's doing it? Or do you really even like doing this? Or are you just here because she's here? Or I think you should just let her do it. Or you don't belong here, so you should really just go back to the grade you came from. So I got a lot of that. And I didn't always say anything to anybody about it, but I got a lot of that. It was a lot of you don't really deserve this, or you're not good enough, or she's better than you are at this, especially with sports. It was almost like every single time. And are you really doing this because you want to? Because Dia's better than you.
So I got the opposite end of it. Not about sports, but it was when. So here's some more backstory for you guys. Janae skipped a grade, right? So when we were in elementary school, when what was it, third grade, we were in the same fourth grade.
Fourth.
So when I was in fourth grade, she skipped third grade and went straight to fourth grade. So we had been in the fourth grade. So we had been in the same grade since elementary. I was fortunate that we were in separate classes until we got to middle school, seventh and eighth grade. Then we ended up in all the same classes, okay? And then it became people tried to make, for me, I'm not sure how it came to you, because tried to make it as if we were competing against one another. And I couldn't stand it when it came to academics. It'd be like, oh, you got an A minus, but Janae got an A. It was always something. And I told you, I hate it when people challenge my identity and who I am. It's always bothered me to the core. Like, it's always bothered me to the core. So that's what I was getting. It was always this competition. And then when we got to high school, now I have an older brother who's in high school, and it's like, oh, this is little. At the time, they was calling my brother greedy. This is little greedy, and I was on here like, no. And it just kind of provoked this very rebellious, stage for me as a way to separate myself from being connected to my sister or my brother. I didn't always play out well because some of it was just true honesty of me being a teenager, but some of it was me purposely like, no, I'm going to do whatever I can to separate myself from y'all trying to put me against my sister or in the same box. I hated it. Absolutely did. I don't know what kind of effect it had on our relationship, but we didn't really get close until we were in college.
Yeah. You know, I don't know how. I never thought about how it affected us, like how we saw each other. I always thought about like my own actions. Like, am I really doing this because I want to, or am I doing? To be completely honest, though, I do remember like constantly making a decision to continue to play sports simply because I was trying to please my dad. That was what most of that was about. I think, and this is full transparency, y'all. I love my daddy. Don't hate on him, but this is the reality of what happened. He was very big on like, Dia is good at this. Dia is going to excel in this area. And there was a lot of emphasis placed on that. And I was like, well, I guess if I keep doing it, at least I'll get some kind of attention or support or whatever in this space. And so I could keep my grades up. That was easy. I could do that blindfolded. But the sports thing, required a little bit more effort. And so it's like, but if I do this, at least he acknowledges it. And so it worked, but it still got to a point where it was like, it was never enough. I had got to a point now, and I thought about it when I became a senior in high school. I was like, you know what? If I had done this my way, the only sports I would have done were volleyball and track. I would have left all that other stuff alone, and I would have focused on dance. I probably would have asked if we could take dance when I was younger, and I would have just maintained that all the way through. All the other stuff never would have happened. Yeah, but that affected like my own personal interests and goals and desires because there were things that I desired to do simply because I felt like he would acknowledge that more, even when it came to like what I would do for college or beyond college, and then it took senior year and beyond for me to just be like, I'm just gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna do what I feel like is best for me, that I enjoy, that I won't feel bad about when I look back, years later and say that was something I actually wanted to do.
Yeah. That's the identity piece, isn't it? Hey, we love you too, TJ. I can't see everybody's comments. I'm being blinded.
I see. Yeah, so Shamika, Mildred, Janae, I see a lot of people have joined us. Hey, y'all, I'm sorry I can't see everybody's name. We appreciate y'all coming in. So the next thing you brought up was protecting your emotional health. And so then here's a question for you with the emotional health. How do you do that as a child? How do you protect the emotions of a child?
It was my my natural inkling to do, right? This is what I somehow, God just dropped this in me to do, was to write. So I'm an 80s baby who grew up in the 90s. Diaries were a big thing. Diaries are a big thing. Moesha had a diary, Blossom had a diary, everybody had a diary. And so I would literally just write. And some of that stuff, I think I still have almost all of them, y'all. And I'm just like, when you read it, it sounds so dramatic, even though I never displayed it as that way. But I've always been big on honesty, like honesty over everything for me. And so, me, if I felt something, the first thing natural for me to do is figure out, what am I feeling? And at the time, I used to say, should I feel this way? Like, it's supposed to be some kind of rubric to say if I'm supposed to feel this way or not. But that was me. I was just like, let me figure out how I feel, because I don't like it when stuff bothers me. Let me decide if I should feel this way, and then decide what is going to make the most sense for me to move forward. I can't tell you to this day why that was my process, but it was my process. It was, something's bothering me. Let me figure out what it is, and then figure out what I want to do next. I wish it was something deep. It wasn't. It was just something that just made sense to me.
So interesting for me is that I was told I was sensitive all the time when I was a kid. All right. It was like, you cry, you sensitive. You get mad, you sensitive. Like I was just not, I had no permission to have any form of emotion
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
And it was like coming from all different directions. I'm like, well, what y'all want me to do? Y'all want me to be like emotionless, be a psychopath? What you want? Like you can't please every. I mean, I'm just saying, like you cry, you can't. You hurt yourself, you can't cry. If it's funny, you can't laugh. If somebody make you mad, you can't get mad. It's just like there was no room for any of that.
Yeah.
So then I got to the point where I literally just started closing my feelings off. And it's like it showed because that's how I started treating other people. Where it's like I would say things without a filter.
Mm-hmm.
And then my cousin Mildred would tell me, like, that was a little extra, Janae. I was like, was it? She's like, yeah. So my college years was literally my pruning process where I learned how to like uh, filter my mouth.
Yeah.
And I started being more conscious and considerate of other people's feelings when I say things. To be fair, I still work on that, but I'm better than I used to be.
We thank God for growth. Um, I had to go through my own season of seasoning my tongue. Um, but when I talk about the emotional health bucket, it's most of us who were grown were raised in the Black community, especially in our age group. Um, you know, in our the emotional intelligence, our parents just didn't have it because they weren't afforded that in their generation. When you look at who raised them and what they were coming from, like straight off the backs of, slavery and Jim Crow, and our parents being raised right at the edge in that, and going into the 60s and 70s. So there wasn't room for emotional intelligence to be a thing, in most households. And so what I've had the opportunity to start getting better at when I started working with youth was understanding emotional intelligence, giving children space to feel their feelings, and helping them learn how to communicate them. I had a group of young kids. I had a K through 6 site that I ran. I had one student who was emotionally delayed because he was born addicted to crack. I had 3 students who were on the autism spectrum, and they all functioned very differently. And several of them were, foster kids or adopted children. So I'm like, it's not their fault that they are the way they are. They like 3rd graders, 4th graders. One was in a kindergartner. And so I had to learn how to give them space, and then how to respond appropriately so that they still felt safe with me. I don't really need you scared of me. I need you to respect me. Because if you respect me versus being scared of me, you're more open to coming back, to share things when you need. And I was fortunate that in the youth development work, I got a lot of good trainings on conscious discipline and how the brain develops, and knowing how certain words prompt different parts of your brain, from the survival part to the safe space, and learning those words and those language. And it helped me begin to do better with connecting and recognizing emotions in myself before I got to the point where I'm like, nope, something's wrong. What's happening? you know. So it helped me be able to recognize things in myself faster. And I'm still working on this.
So am I. Ms. Reed Jules said people feel that they can always tell you how you feel. Most of the time, they are incorrect. And the thing about that, y'all, because I work with young people for like the majority of my working career, professional career. And it was through working with children that I realized that adults are no different. For some reason, we think that there's this extra layer of protection against our emotions just because we're grown. And it's not. We are just as sensitive as they are. We have emotions just like they are. And we will respond or react based on how we are able to manage those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was working with them that I actually learned how to work with adults. To be honest, I working with kids requires more energy, but you learn so much. You learn to actually care about them as people. And that same level of care and concern can transfer to every other aspect of relationships.
Yes. Very
And it's
true.
like, at least with navigating the relationship with children, particularly in an academic setting, right? Because working in a community school environment, you are basically everything for those children. You know what I mean? And they can have a very, very, very loving home. Don't get me wrong, but when they come to school, that's just a different environment. It's a different space. Different things are happening, and those adults in that school matter. Like there's so much impact and influence that we have on those children when they come to school that it can be a make or break type of situation. And so you can say the wrong thing, the wrong day to the wrong child, and that can literally change everything about the trajectory of their lives.
Very much so.
Likewise, you can say the right thing on the right day, and it can positively affect the trajectory of their lives. And so, with me having had that experience with them, it's helped with how I navigate my relationship with other adults, especially at work, interestingly enough. So, it's something that I think is undervalued, or maybe it's just overlooked, but I think we need to give more attention to.
Yes. All pieces of it, though. There's kind of a wave that's coming around that's helping with emotional intelligence, and also like the mental health. Like mental health is a big buzzword, big thing right now. But what still seems to be the two pieces left out of this holistic health piece of a bucket or view are spiritual health and physical health. We tend to, and this is very American, right? It's a very Western problem, is to connect physical health to body goals. So everybody's chasing a physique. Everybody's chasing a weight. And we're connecting physical health to being in a gym. Physical health can look very, very different for everyone. And we're just here in this Western American way of thinking that we have to have the Arnold Schwarzenegger body, or you know, we all got to look like Captain America. Like,
Tiana Taylor.
exactly, which she just blessed with that genetically. So you're not getting that. Like, I mean, it's seriously, that's just genetics. The woman's blessed with that. So physical health is also like we are all required to be active every day. Our bodies were made to move, to be mobile. And it doesn't have to look the same for everyone. And that was always been a really big thing for me. And I'm like, man, if you had a garden and you garden every day, that is physical activity. Most of us, when we were growing up, we had to walk to the grocery store. Like, that's we walked to the grocery store, we walked to school, we walked pretty much everywhere. But it was a necessity. But part of that is being active and being physical, taking care of your physical health and the food that we eat. We don't want to talk about the food. Like, my brother-in-law literally died because he didn't want to change how he was eating. Like, we're willing to just die rather than change our diet to, to
To live.
extend our life, you know. So the fitness field here in America just makes being healthy and active just so intimidating, because they're creating this big platform as if you do, you have to look like this, or in order to look like this, you can do it just like that. Hey, it's gonna take so much. It's all you gotta do is get these abs in 14 days. No, y'all be like, I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. You know how much work them bodybuilders put in? You're not putting in that much work to have yourself convinced that you're gonna look like that in 2 days, like in 2 weeks. It's not realistic. And then the spiritual part is, we are spiritual beings. Now, granted, if you don't want to believe in God, Christendom, or you got something else you want to believe in, there is no escaping the truth that there is a higher being, period. I don't care what you want to believe. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. You can believe in what you want to believe in. But it does not change the fact that there is a spiritual component to all of us that we have to nurture and connect to and feed. And we leave that part of our self-care part too. So all of those things to me are holistic health that always have to be considered when we think about self-care. Spiritual, emotional, mental, physical. You need them all.
All right. Well, I understand that. All right. So, how does this lead into boundaries, and why are boundaries so important? What are boundaries? Because, for some reason, when I hear that, I think about like you just have this invisible force field around you that nobody can touch you. Nobody can actually access you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Boundaries, that is one of the, how do I say this? That's the most unhealthy way for us to view boundaries, as if it's a means to keep people out. Boundaries are created, or we establish boundaries so that we can protect our identity, and so that we can always be focused and stay connected to our purpose and our vision. So boundaries put us in a place to make sure that our needs are always met, so that we are always in a place to keep learning, loving, defining ourselves, so that we can create a space of abundance because we're in good health to give to others. Does that make sense? Like, boundaries create the space you need to be the best you, so that you can serve people most fully.
I
So,
like that. My lovely truth says, set your limits on what you will take and what you withstand. I'm like, yeah, that's a good one. So,
mm-hmm.
how do people establish boundaries? Like, where do we start? How do we begin this process? Like, I don't even know what. So, if I like, I need boundaries. Boundaries from what?
It's so crazy when we think, as I've been coaching people, um, how much people don't know where to set their boundaries at, and how I'm still discovering more. The first thing when it comes to setting your boundaries is understanding who you are. And that's the self work we don't like doing. Because when we have to look at our whole selves and our current identity, and then say, these are the things that happened to me that made this part of my identity. And then saying, hey, these are things I need to let go of. And these are the things I want to take on, and because this is the person that I want to become. So identity is the core of it all. Understanding who you are and who it is that you desire to become. Right? From there, we can then say, or go to, okay, these are my needs. And most of us don't know what our needs are. We don't know when our burnout point is. We don't know when we've taken on too much until we've already hit the wall. We don't know what we need every day to stay connected to ourselves. If you don't know what your needs are, you don't know what you have to put your boundaries around to keep space for. So knowing your needs is a big part of setting boundaries. Hey, this is my limit. These are the things I know I have to do every day that are connected to my purpose, my vision, my health. This is how much time I have left in my day. This is my wiggle room that I have. And then set your boundaries according to that. What also helps you define the boundaries on the other side. I try to focus on what the needs are, because it's a healthier and more positive place to come from. Because when you look at it from what I need, it's less intimidating to try to tell people they need to stay out. Because you're focusing on, this is really what is going to make me my best self. It also comes on the other side when you're in situations that are just like, nope, this doesn't feel good. Nope, that doesn't work. That also helps us be clear on what our boundaries are. Some people don't like having hugs, don't like giving hugs or getting them, receiving them. That's a physical boundary for them. For me, when I had hair, you ain't gonna touch my hair. That's a boundary, you know? And so it really is about understanding what your needs are and understanding the things that don't fit in your life and that you aren't comfortable having in your life at whatever phase or season you're in. Because boundaries, they'll change as you grow, as you change, as you evolve. Your boundaries will change with you. But that's, if I can just narrow it down to some very simple things: identity, knowing who you are and who you want to become, understanding what your needs are, and understanding the things that don't make you comfortable or that just don't work for you, and then establishing your boundaries around those things.
So Janae, my lovely True, she made a comment. She said, "Yeah, I have moments where I have to set them with my family." I have a spin-off question from that, but you were talking about like establishing boundaries based on your identity, and it came to my mind about developing a healthy self-image when it comes to the goals that you're trying to achieve as far as the person you want to become.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you go through the process of developing and cultivating a healthy self-image so that the goal that we're working towards is something that's positive and not something that's, I don't want to say unattainable, but that could be detrimental in the long run.
When you, so you're saying that the person that you want to become may not be a healthy person?
Well, because we tend to, full transparency. I mean, this is like we live in a world where it's a very superficial society, right? You know, a lot of it has to do with what you can show people you are as opposed to who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
So part of my self identity or self image or goals or whatever is to get to a point where I can get this kind of job to make this much money so I can buy this kind of stuff. Like, yes, that can be a good thing, but is that what's the substance of who you are as a person? Like your character, your personality, your how you treat other people, how you treat yourself. Like, where does that fit, I guess?
Oh gosh. Okay, so when I'm coaching clients, this is a very intensive process, right? So I always teach, when you look at identity, there's three parts of it. Who you believe you are, who you think you are, right? Who you believe you are, who you really are, and who you try to convince other people you are. Right? There's those three pieces. And it's about working through all of that, being able to say, these are all the pieces of my identity, and then being honest and saying, where did those pieces of my identity come from? And then asking yourself truthfully, how does it benefit me, or what is it costing me for each of those, right? And then doing the same thing with your values. What are my values? Do you value honesty, integrity, family, um, faith, all of these things? Like, what do you value currently? And then ask yourself why. If you value money, ask yourself why. And then trace that back to where it came from. And then be real, like, how does that benefit me? What is it costing me? Does it get me to the next phase of my life that I'm going to be the most fulfilled? But most of the time, if it's something that's not healthy, once you ask yourself, where did this value come from? And you be real about it, and then say, what is it costing me? Or how is it benefiting me? Then it becomes maybe it's costing me more than I think. Because if it's not healthy, it's going to cost you something. But it's the honesty.
But it's worth it though, right? Because that's what I'm working towards. Everything costs a little sacrifice, right?
Everything costs. Everything costs. But it's hard work. Like, it's nothing simple about it. I've done an identity transformation. I'm on number 3 right now that I can actually count. That was intentional. That I'm on number 3 right now, and just reevaluating, the values and who I am and who it is I, believe I want to become. And then connecting to that, and then being able to spend time to connect to my vision and purpose. All of that stuff working together really uh, makes things a bit clearer, when it comes to where you want to go, but also, how to set and establish boundaries.
So back to Janae's comment, how do you, as you evolve as a person, right? You mature, you grow from obviously a child to an adult. How do you establish and implement these boundaries when it comes to your family members, especially the elders? Because there's this they are who they are, and they've been that all your life. But because you are no longer a child, you don't necessarily need that type of you don't need the authority or guidance from them in the way that they've traditionally presented it to you.
Here's that elder thing is a thing for us, boy, because I want to say this: our boundaries are for us, period. Like, they don't have nothing to do with other people. It's not personal, when it comes to establishing boundaries, but also understanding that boundaries are going to provoke emotions in people. We both and we have absolutely no control over someone else's emotion. We can't control how they respond to our boundaries or who we are. That part is completely out of our hands. And it's about coming to grips with that part first. Like, I can't control the outcome. I can't control what emotions arise for them. I can only establish my boundaries with love and lead with love. And the language helps. And so I say lead with love because how we present them matters as well. To very simply say, I'm not comfortable having this conversation with you anymore, Grandma. So we can talk about something else, or, I will just leave and, we'll try to talk again later. That's leading with love instead of going, I ain't having this conversation with you. So, it's just two very different, ways to approach it. And sometimes we just have to be real with ourselves. We're going to have to remove ourselves from some people. We're going to have to remove ourselves from environments. We're going to have to remove ourselves from some situations. I got a family member I have to do that with because they don't care about how they talk to you. Look, when you get there, I'm going to go because that's not what I'm doing.
So how do you navigate that when you're in a space that you don't really have any control? Like you're I don't want to say you're locked in, but you're not in a space, you're not in a place or a position where you can completely separate yourself from those individuals. Like whether you live in a house with them and you can't afford to live on your own, whatever the case may be, but you're pretty much confined to be in proximity with them on a pretty regular basis. So how do you navigate those those interactions to where you don't have to have those conversations, or you can address those in those conversations if they ever come up?
I don't know how you don't have the conversation. One thing when it comes to boundaries, you are always going to be educating people about your boundaries. It's a never ending thing. So either you're going to be teaching someone how to adapt to your new boundaries, and they're going to need reminders because they're used to doing things a certain way with you, or you're going to be constantly meeting new people that you're going to have to teach them your boundaries. There's no one and done when it comes to setting your boundaries. You don't give them somebody and they just automatically be reprogrammed. So there's two parts of, like, if you have to constantly see that person, we have to give people some grace because they also have to change their behavior. And that does not happen overnight. So there are reminders that we're going to have to keep giving, as they begin to adapt their behavior to what best suits your needs. That is a process for any person. No one makes a behavior or a mindset change overnight. So there's no one and done. I told you once, you should get it. Who? We don't even take tests like that. Like, You know, like, how do we expect that to happen? You don't reprogram someone's behavior or their habits that way. We couldn't reprogram ourselves that way. It's like saying I want to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I told myself that's what I want to do, and you ain't did it. Then you have to teach yourself to do that. So there's a process to that, especially when you're dealing with someone else's. That's not their natural response. So you have to give them the grace and the reminders to keep as they begin to change. Then it gets to a point where either you're trying to change or you just don't want to do this. Like, we at a point where you just blatantly disrespectful. And that's when you have to start delivering them consequences. And the consequences are leaving the room. Like, you're never trapped unless you're in jail. Like, there are rooms. There's outside. Go for a walk. Sit in the car. Like, there are places to go unless you are literally confined in a jail cell and no one can let you out of your room or your cell with that other person. So we can't look at it as I'm stuck with someone not respecting my boundaries. There is always a way to separate yourself. And there are consequences that we have to put in place. An example could be when someone visits, or when you go visit someone else and they keep trying to have a conversation that you keep telling them you don't want to have. It gets to a point where you say, you know what, you just can't come over here for a while. That's a consequence. I'm just not coming over here for a while. That's a consequence. Or you tell someone, hey, I don't want calls after 10 o'clock. And they keep doing it. After a while, you say, I'm just not answering for a while. That's a consequence. Like, so there are consequences to everything. And it's about knowing or having an idea of how you're going to enforce those consequences as well. But to act like it's one and done, like, that's just not, we're not robots. You can't just like put a code in and reprogram somebody. It's not realistic.
I I don't want to play devil's advocate, but I'm going to. So, like, that sounds so simple. And I know you said that we do not have any form of control or even responsibility when it comes to how other people react to our boundaries. But in the most respectful way, we can still explain this to them more than once. And yet we still get that from them. I can speak for this because I've had this situation where it's like I many times have tried to like change the subject or try to express, well, that's not really the ideal direction we want to go in. And it's like for some reason they find a way to continue to come back to this conversation, come back to this topic, come back to this topic. In the most respectful way, I can still say this is a no, and they'll still try it. Like, what else? And I know you said establish consequences, like
Yeah,
either just
that's
pull
what I'm
away.
saying. So what are the consequences?
But when you're, and I get what you're saying, like it's okay. You're just like just leave. So basically, it's like a ghost. I'll be living in somebody else's house, and it's like I'm not there.
That's what it's going to take. Nothing in life is complicated. Like, as far as the steps. Now, steps are not complicated in most things in life. It's the work that's the hard part. But when you talk about steps, steps are easy. Execution is what's hard.
Oof. All right, you just unpacked all that, didn't you?
Because I be living it.
Okay, well, I took your one of your classes a couple years ago when you launched it. I know that the program has evolved significantly since then. But can you just summarize what your program is, the title of it, and what the initial goals of it are?
So, the program you're referring to is the Lifestyle Reset.
Yeah.
That is a course that I created all around health. And so the basis of that course is about being able to understand how habits work and how to establish new habits in your life, understanding your body's relationship with food, and how to create a progressive meal plan for yourself. And also being able to create a lifestyle where you are physically active, but also having the understanding that you can do it in a way that works for you. And so that course is really about having a lifestyle around health, of eating better, you know, and being more active and having a more active and balanced lifestyle. Yeah, so that was that course, the lifestyle reset. And it was really about, hey, this is where you are, not trying to push you anywhere farther, but understanding where you are and then creating a plan, giving you the tools to create your own plan to get you to where you need to be.
And then the program you have now that you're doing.
So with my coaching, I have the Journey to Know program, which is my new baby, right? That one is heavily focused on connecting people to their vision, having clarity on their purpose, having a self-care routine that they execute daily, so that they have a daily self-care routine, and also having clarity on the life that they desire to have and having an actual plan to get there. So that is the newest that comes from my coaching business now, is the Journey to Know program. And it's just really all about connecting to your values, your vision, your purpose, your identity, and creating action steps that keep you on a purpose-filled path.
I'm gonna tell y'all, these courses that she does are very personal, and they really force you to reflect and look at your inner self on such a deep level that you don't have a choice but to actually do something right about your life. And it's a good thing. I mean, I think we need that. I posted on my page a quote that Dia stated that said, if you can't be vulnerable, you can't be honest with yourself. And I tell you, when you go through their course, either one of them, honestly, you don't have a choice but to be truthful with yourself if you want to see results, you know? So I'm going to end with this question, and that is, how do we get to so I talked about how I went through this process of being told I was emotionally sensitive for so long that I shut my emotions down. How do you get to the point where you reawaken that and you choose to A, process your emotions, and B, become vulnerable enough to admit to yourself that these are things that you need to process?
One is understand that your vulnerability is for you. Your vulnerability is for you. It's not about being scared to be vulnerable to other people or with other people. With my, like you said, when you quoted me, I just feel like vulnerability is honesty. Like, if you can't be vulnerable with yourself, you are lying to yourself. You are purposely not telling yourself the truth about where you are and how you feel. You a liar. I said it. So vulnerability is that. And so it really is just taking the time to be more connected to your body, right? So if you're having a hard time understanding or be feeling disconnected to emotions, mentally you are, but your body has not disconnected from those emotions. So your body is going to be responding in a certain way. There can be, when you ask a certain question or a certain memory comes up, do you feel a tenseness, a tense or a tightness in your chest? Do your shoulders get a little more tight? Does your breathing change? Um, I know for me how stress, mentally it doesn't resonate, but in my body I feel more fluttered and wired. Like it's almost like having adrenaline going, but not quite to the level of like when I'm doing sports. But there's like an uneasiness because my body won't settle. That's how I'm beginning to recognize that there's something mentally or emotionally going on. So there is, somebody said I feel slightly attacked. So I think that's the first part, right? Is being reconnected to your body and what's happening in your body. And then being able to sit still enough to say, hey, I'm feeling something. Even if you can't put a name on it, just say, I'm feeling something. And then you just give yourself some time to just sit in whatever that is. Maybe the rest of it will come. Maybe it won't. But you'll get better at feeling them. Getting the emotional wheel and say, hey, do any of these words fit? How I feel right now, and then just write it out. And what also helps me, what was helping me, especially back when I was young, is I'm just writing out the situation that got me bothered or unbothered. However, I'm trying to go with this, and just writing it out and looking at it. There's some transparency in where you're really at that helps you say, oh, that's the emotion I'm feeling right now. Because when you have to read it, it's real now. As who is it? Lynn Richardson says, thoughts untangle themselves, as they flow through your fingertips. Write it out. Maybe it's not an emotion, but if you can write down what's going on, you can look at it and maybe connect it to something else. That's big for me.
I feel like you gave me homework. I know you're not my life coach, but I really feel like you just gave me homework.
It's my process. I'm telling you, I am learning how I'm much more anxious than I thought. I am learning that I don't carry stress mentally. So I have to find a way to catch it in my body before it manifests in bigger ways. Um, it's just a process and having coping mechanisms that go with it. For me, it's cartoons or walks. I like watching old cartoons. They're like 18, 20 minutes. They don't take a whole lot. Walks help me. Just having ways that are healthy that make you feel, relaxed and calm is so important.
I don't know. You just said that. I felt like I was going through a meditation. Like, next time we're gonna have Miss Dia do a guided meditation. No.
Someone else said that to me. Like, your voice is so soothing.
It is. But yeah, so does anyone have any questions before I go to the next? I saw that Miss Rejules posted and she said, I agree with Dia. You have to let people know what you will deal with and what you are not. And it was in response to the boundaries. Yeah,
We teach people how to treat us.
absolutely. Swiss
Not only by,
Sparrow.
not only by our boundaries, but how we treat ourselves. So if you treating yourself like crap, they gonna treat you like that too.
I guess that comes to understanding your worth and your value, huh?
That's the identity work.
Whew. So, Miss Dia, tell the people where we can find you if we want to reach out to you some more.
So my personal Instagram is at Dia P Noble. And my business page you can find at Air, as in you're an heir or you have an inheritance. So HEIR of Worth, and that's on Instagram. I'm on Facebook on both those platforms too. So Facebook.com/heir of Worth, Facebook.com/Dia P Noble. Thank you, Ree. I mean, I have not been able to keep up with the comments.
I've tried to, you guys. If I miss one, I do apologize. I was trying to read them as we were going on with conversation. But I thank everyone for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time to, like listen to us and chat with us. The goal is for me to be doing this regularly, so there'll definitely be other ones. These will be posted on my Instagram and my Facebook, so people can go back and watch them later if you want. Thank you, Miss Dia, for joining us. This was a good conversation.
Absolutely.
Whew. Again, I feel like I got homework.
Well, there's always homework. I'm going to offer a special for those of you who are making it to the end of the video. I'm going to discount my consultations, so there'll be a great 30-minute consultation that I can offer you. That's going to give you a really great comprehensive questionnaire to give you a good snapshot of kind of who you are and how you operate. So if you guys or anyone's interested, you can go to my website, bornworthycoaching.com, or click on any of the links in my social media to just schedule a consultation. It's going to be really eye-opening to look at kind of how you like to make decisions in certain areas.
And when you reach out to her, say Carmen Miss Royalty IG sent you. That way she'll connect you to this live and then give you that discount.
Well, man, it's been an hour. That went by so fast.
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you, Millie. Thank you, Reed. Thank you all so much again for joining us. Like I said, I'm going to be doing these regularly. Well, yeah, regularly. So catch me in the next live.
Tell
And
everybody about your book.
oh, she wanted me to talk about my book. Okay, so I released my book back in January. It's called The Process of Letting Go, 40 Days of Rediscovery and Healing. It is available on Amazon.com. You can literally go to Amazon.com and search it, either by me as an author or by the title of the book. Or you can go through my website, which on my Instagram, there's the Linktree website that'll take you directly to the book. And if you're interested, it comes in a Kindle format and a paperback. But yeah, it's for a devotional. So the first half of the book is me explaining my journey, my experience. And then the second half is the 40 days of you doing the devotional. So if you don't want to do the devotional right away, you don't have to. You can read the book and then come back later and do that. Or you can go right to the devotion. It's really up to you. But yeah, so that's my shameless plug.
Well, make sure y'all keep tuning in to my sister's checking ins every Tuesday. So check her stuff out and follow us on social media.
All right. Y'all have a good evening.